The government's decision to increase electricity tariffs has been met with concern and some anger. Nigeria, Arise News rather, went to town and gauged some comments from the residents here in the FCT.
The Commission has approved a rate review of 225 naira per kilowatt hour for just under 15% of the customer population in NERC.
The NERC says the cost of generating electricity and the fluctuations in the exchange rate has led to the decision to approve the tariff increment. The hike could, according to them, affect those who get up to 20 hours of electricity a day. The regulators say the government cannot continue to bear the brunt of subsidizing electricity alone. This has led to reactions from Nigerians, with some lamenting the already increased price in fuel and food items.
Considering the economic situation and most importantly hiking in the electricity tariff, we make life even more difficult, not just a common man, but most importantly those that are using electricity most to generate income. As at last year, we do normally buy 50,000 naira of electricity tariff units, which can at least last for 2 weeks or much more, maximum a month. But as I'm telling you now, that 50,000 naira cannot even last for 2 weeks.
We're battling with transportation hike and then electricity hike too. It's really too painful, because one, you consider the youth that are just coming out from higher institution trying to get their hands into something doing, and then they are still battling, you're increasing the meter price. It's too much.
Others say the stability of electricity is mostly poor, hence Nigerians are forced to pay more for the service they hardly get. They reckon that paying more isn't a problem, but the availability of electricity remains an issue.
It's not the hike on the tariff that is the problem here. The problem here is that for us to have access to what we are paying for, that's the major problem. So like where I live, Maraba Aziz, so we have the highest light we have per day is 7 hours. So they give us 4 hours in the day and 3 hours at night. Sometimes 3 hours in the day, 4 hours at night. So that's just the major problem. So let us have enough of what we are paying for.
We are paying double to get the light, and even while paying the money to get the light, it's still not working out. Just imagine when when an average man is trying to keep his things in his fridge kept up, and you're paying double of what you're paying before. Then now you're paying double of it and it's not working out.
Some also say the disparity in the categorization of Bank A customers and Bank E customers is discriminatory, with others saying the privatization of the sector is to blame for the hike in tariff.
In Nigeria, that's how it normally be, where the rich keep enjoying while the common man keeps suffering. There are areas that you see where the rich are now, you say that there is light there. But where the estimated bills, you cannot see light, but you keep paying.
This price can be reduced at least, because if it's not reduced, it can lead to a lot of social vices, because we're already battling with internet fraud, and then this one again, even those that are not interested in it may consider going into that line in order to meet up with bills.
The Nigerian government is now being urged to do more to alleviate the already expensive cost of living for Nigerians. Oluje Wapera, Arise News.
Well, joining us now is electricity market analyst Lanre Elatuyi. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thanks so
Good
much
to have
for
you.
the Nigerians.
Right, I mean, since you're a market analyst, I mean, you would understand the parameters, or the factors that led to NERC increasing, though, for 15% of the 13 million electricity subscribers in Nigeria. Help us understand whether this, increment is really fair in terms of, look, the high end should pay more, while the, less privileged will gradually be eased off subsidy.
Okay, in answering that question, we are actually in a very dire situation, and the decision made by NERC was so strategic in the sense that they only increased for people that are under band aid, people that are enjoying up to 20 hours of electricity supply every day. Because over the years, people have been complaining that, oh, the people that are enjoying this subsidy are the rich, that the rich are being subsidized because they enjoy more electricity. So they've only increased for just 15% of the total electricity consumer in Nigeria. So is it justifiable? Yeah. Is it right at this time that Nigerians are going through serious economic situations? The problem is that when you look at MITO 2024, I've done the analysis. The challenge is that if there's no increment, government has to pay subsidy. So if you look at MITO 2024, the subsidy amount is up to 1.7 trillion naira. So but the budgetary allocation for subsidy in 2024 budget is just 450 billion naira. Right. So that leaves a gap of over 1 trillion naira. So who is going to bear this burden? So the GENCOs are going to bear the burden, the power generation companies. So they are business owners, they are investors, they've invested in power generation, they have loans obligation that they're servicing. So if the market does not pay, and the government says we don't have subsidy to pay, so that our resource adequacy is going to be in serious jeopardy. We heard of 13,500 megawatts of installed capacity, but the question to Nigerians is, how much of this capacity is presently available now for generation? We barely have over 5,000 generation capacity available. Yeah. So, like I said, it's a very, very difficult situation that we're in. It didn't start today. The problem has been lingering for so long. So, it just crystallized now. So, the government, the regulator has no option. One, the regulator has responsibility to parties, to consumers, to protect consumers from exploitation. Then they have duty to the investors in the business too. So investors must be able to recover their cost and make minimal profit if that is allowed. So in this situation, the investors are groaning. GENCOs are hold a whole lot of money. And when GENCOs are hold a lot of money, they can't pay for their gas too, because they need to get gas. Right. So that's a problem. Then Nigerians are asking why the dollar component in our tariff. So we have to understand the fact that our hydro plants, though they run on water, they pay concession fee on yearly basis in dollar to the government. They have loans that they are servicing. Those loans obligation, because power is quite capital intensive, the finances are not available locally, so they have to source for it offshore. So they have their loans obligation that they are paying, and they have to pay back. Then if you look at most of our generation capacities from thermal, about 80%. So mostly they are STEM, combined cycle gas turbine, open cycle gas turbine. And we are dominated, the portfolio is dominated by open cycle gas turbine that are making use a lot of gas. So gas is priced in dollar. So gas producers too will not sell in naira. So that's a problem. That's where the dollar component. So in order to mitigate the risk of the investors, the foreign exchange risk, the exposure, so the dollar component has to be included in our tariff model.
You know, Lara, listening to you, I cannot, in fact, I lost count how many times you've used the word investors, which is one of the key concerns. I'm happy that the NLC president will be joining us pretty much later, being a big player also in the energy sector. When we talk about investors, is it right for us to use just a brushstroke, say everyone who is in that sector, who the 11 discos, they're all investors? Because given the infrastructure some of them have inherited from the old NEPA, PHCN, to this moment, they haven't actually shown to Nigerians how much they've been able to plow into it. So when government has been paying, that has been paying subsidy till this moment, Nigerians are saying, hey, look, you've been feeding the cat fat and nothing is coming to us. So how much of an investment have some of these discos put into what they already have, to the extent that we can now say they're running at a loss?
In other words, are they investors or prospectors?
Oh, let me just correct an impression. The tariff being charged by the market is not for the discos alone. It's for the entire market. It's for the entire value chain. So if you look at the palm value chain, we have the GENCOs, the generating companies. So the part of the tariff that goes to the GENCOs is quite substantial. So we have the GENCOs, then we have the transmission companies. So you have to pay for transmission.
But Larry, once upon a time, all three were all within a sector.
I know. So I'm just trying to correct an impression that as if the whole money goes to the discos alone, because you actually made mention of discos alone. So the money goes to the entire market. So the point is that have they invested a lot in the sector? Yes, there's been a lot of investment from when the power sector is vertically integrated and NEPA was the only one responsible.
All 11 discos?
All the market players and the 11 discos, they've made substantial...
No, I'm limiting it to the end.
To the discos?
Yes, the ones that the customers, all 11 discos. Yeah.
All 11 discos have made some level of investments. They've made that. Apart from their CAPEX, they have the OPEX that the tariff has to cater for. So they've made a level of investment, but there is a need to do more. I agree with that because there's still a lot of constraints in their network. So their capacity to distribute to end users is still quite low. So I agree that the investment has not been as expected. The point is that it's quite capital intensive and they don't have access to patient capital or long-term capital. That's one of the problems we have. So, and if the market illiquidity continues, there's no way, they're not bankable. So it's very hard for them to even approach any investor to lend them money. So most Nigerian banks are badly exposed to our discos. So if you look at it very well, most discos have been taken over by their lenders. So that's a challenge. That's the problem of the market. I'm not going to downplay that.
Well, I'm happy that you got to that part of it. Some of the discos have actually been overtaken or taken over by
their lenders.
Larry, always a delight to speak with you, and I hope that we can stay on this.